Yeah, good evening, beautiful people of the TryPod community. We are here for our round 19 NRL preview show. A warm welcome to you all. Winnie, how are you going, my friend?
All right, thanks, mate. Off another winning weekend, I'm thankful to say. I got a notification that popped up that there's issues streaming on Instagram. So you can see on your side if the
I can see on my
Instagram
side
feed
it hasn't gone up like
working?
it usually would.
Okay,
No.
we may have a technical issue there. So look, we'll carry on. These things can happen with the live show, but yeah, I'm pleased to go 3-2 and win the mixed matchup as well. Although neither of my same gamers hit. Missed you on Sunday, but congrats for another win in the Clarkey's Collect venture for the second half of the year.
Yeah, man, of course I wasn't here on the recap show. My apologies, guys. I had a friend's birthday who's actually a Knights fan. So I thought for his birthday present, we both live here in Canberra, let's go to the Knights game. And before it, we had some fun, put some multis on, had a great afternoon. And one of our bets was Knights -3.5. It was a best bet for you. I said it was my next best to Clarkey's Collect. Fortunately enough, that bet did win. So it's 2 weeks in a row where my next best has also come in, which is a great feeling. But yeah, rode that one home, mate. When Xavier Coates scored that last try, or seemingly scored it, my heart dropped. I was
Savage.
like, not again. Yeah, Savage, sorry. Yeah, I was thinking, no, not again. But luckily for our sake, it was taken off the Raiders. Quick recap for myself, mate. Clarkey's Collect was the Panthers +4.5, Storm -5.5, and Roosters head-to-head. Pretty comfortably, you'd have to say. But as I did say in the previous show, it's not the best odds. I think it was $2.40-ish, but I wanted to be conservative and make sure we get another win on the board.
And as I said to you, if you had gone the Storm line of 12.5, you may have been the victim of that final play. So you don't have to apologize for a $2.40 winner. You don't have to apologize for not being here on Sunday, considering you were at the ground cheering on the best bet. And we needed every kilojoule of energy going into that because we only got over the line by half a point. And I'll give a spoiler too. I'm filming a little behind the scenes documentary. I'm doing some video diaries and some reactions. And I actually recorded my reaction to the bunker ruling on that final try, which was decisive for our best bet. And again, like we go 3-2. I'm not looking for anyone to pat me on the back or anything like that. But those calls, that's the difference between a winning weekend or a losing weekend. And we've had several others this year and it's been that close, but it's gone against me and it's a losing weekend. And then I do get people coming and telling me how bad I went. So the fact that I don't get those messages for the last couple of weeks, that's a win to me. And I'm not shying away from it. I've still got, 4 plays out of 5 games, in fact, for this weekend. So I'll share those straight away and I'll get my phone out because I'm going to be backing a couple of them on Dabble in real time. So that begins with the South Sydney Rabbitohs tomorrow night. Thursday night. Sorry, I'm trying to do 2 things at once, which I'm not that good at. And for me, +4.5. It's actually 5.5 on Dabble, but best bet will call 4.5 at $1.84 because it's 2 cents better on Sportsbet. And let me just say it this way: to me, the Rabbitohs are the better team. I'm going to counteract that with the Finns being at home and off the bye. And I'm going to say it's much closer to a coin flip to me. And if I can get 4.5 points, I'll take the Rabbitohs. I've been on them 5 weeks straight. They've won every single week. And to me, like that, they're in great form. Obviously, the Latrell's injured, but he wouldn't have been playing anyway. The Finns also have a couple out for Origin. I still think the game winners on the match can be the likes of Cody Walker, Jack Whiten, with Marshall King out as well for my Finns. I have to go against them, sadly. The following day, I'm going to take the team that nobody wants anymore and was a loser for me last week, but I'll go again with Cronulla, -6.5 at $1.91 on 365. And there's been a major line move against the Sharks, and that's not only form, but the news that Nico's out. I'm just not sure how much Nico being out will really hurt Cronulla in the short term. I think there's injured player theory there, and I think they've relied on Nico too much, and it actually can open things up for other players. Atkinson's done a good job in the halves. I think Trindle getting more opportunity, Kennedy hands on the ball more. There's playmakers in the Sharks forward pack as well. And I don't rate the Tigers too well. I think There's no risk of an ambush because the Tigers already pumped the Sharks earlier this year. And there's no risk of complacency because Cronulla has lost 4 of 5 and the Sharkies are at home. So this line is telling me the Sharks are only a handful, like 3 points or 4 points better than the Tigers. I see it as a bit of a bigger margin between these sides. I'm going your Titans on Saturday at home, -5.5. That is on Dabble, which I've backed. You can copy from @Jacob Win. It's also on 365. I think the Titans are the better team right now when you're taking Moses off the Eels and with the form considered of some of the big names, not to mention Junior Barlow's out as well. The Titans, of course, will have a statement game from Dave Fafita. Jaden Campbell's back, maybe Brimson as well. The Titans have got more confidence. The Titans are fresher. The Titans are at home. How's this line under 6? In fact, it's not in some places. It's gone to 6.5. But even at 6.5, I think it's still a solid bet. At 5.5, I got to do it. And then I'm also going to lay -5.5 with the Broncos, and they face the Dragons, and that is an alt line. So that is on Top Sport, $1.80. The pick your own line, alternative line on Top Sport, -5.5, and it's an absolute must-win for Brisbane. You probably could have said the same last week, and I was on Brisbane, thankfully, first half last week. I know 4 Origin players go out, but the Dragons lose a couple of their best as well, and Brisbane gets into very vital pieces in Ricky and Staggs. Home advantage as well, desperation for Brisbane. I think they've got just enough and still enough game breakers there to win this one by 6 or more. So those are my 4 best bets. Let me know what you think. Clarkey, as well as everyone who's tuned in, we're glad to have your company and love to hear what you think of my 4 favourite players of round 19.
100%, mate. I think I'm with you on every single one of those there. For those who are looking at me, looking down there, not being rude, we actually don't talk before the show so that our breakdown of each game is genuine, not influenced by each other's thoughts. So when you see me looking down, it could be a sign that I like the best bet and I'm getting on it myself whilst Winnie goes through them there. So that's what that was there. And of course, as Winnie did touch on, we are a live show. We can see all of your comments popping in now. So please feel free to get involved so we can react as the show goes on. We've only got 5 games, Winnie. We will get to them in just a moment. But before we do, let us hear from the top sport of CEO. It's Mr. Tristan Merlehan.
G'day everyone. Big week in football. Obviously, we've got the decider in Origin in just over a week's time, but there's been plenty happening in the last few hours. There's been plenty of movements in the teams. Obviously, this weekend's one of those weeks where we've got none of the Origin players, so it's very tricky to price. The first game has seen a big move towards the Dolphins, 1.5 out to 3.5, which is obviously on the back of a couple of the outs for the Rabbitohs. And then the big move of the weekend has been the Sharks against the Tigers, where we opened that game at 13.5. It's now into 7.5. So a massive move there towards the plus. And then obviously primarily on the back of no David Fafita and Jaden Campbell coming back into the side, the Titans have gone 2.5 out to 6.5. So 3 significant moves already that we've seen. It's always a tricky weekend to price. Looking at Origin, because that's what everyone is focusing on. We opened the game at Pickham. Then when no Latrell, was $1.74, $2.10, but there's been a little bit of support for New South Wales after the teams were announced. It's now $1.82 Queensland, $2 New South Wales, a line of 1.5. It's going to be a really even betting game. Looking forward to seeing how that one plays out. Good luck if you're having a bet over the weekend, and of course, gamble responsibly.
Perfect of Tristan to join us front seat of his Ferrari there. We absolutely appreciate him sending in a message. All righty, let's do it, Winnie. Let's get to it game by game. We kick it off Thursday night, 7:50 p.m. We're at KO Stadium at Redcliffe, your stomping ground and territory. Dolphins host the Bunnies. Now, this line did open at -1.5 against the Dolphins. It's now shifted to -3.5 following team lists. The Rabbitohs, they've got Jai Gray in for Latrell and Liam LeBlanc joins the bench. Trey Fuller comes in, Jack Bostock returns, and Max Plath moves to hooker. And these sides have actually only met once before winning. The Rabbitohs got a 22-point victory on that occasion, and they come into this game riding a 5-game winning streak. It's your feeling they will extend that against your Finns, mate?
They may not need to win with the +4.5. As I said, I reckon it's a dead set coin toss. And let me start by saying, I'll ask this question: which team will Wayne Bennett be coaching in this one? And maybe should Bennett just take over whoever wins? Because I will go as far to say the loser of this game misses the 8. Now, that's not very bold about South Sydney, because I think the maths will tell you Souths must win 7 of the final 9. It's just that Souths have a pretty tough final 5 weeks, so this probably can't be one of the losses. In fact, that's why I would call this a 4-point game. And when I think I've used that term before, to be clear, what I mean by that is you're getting +2, but because it's a game where if you lose, you don't get the +2 points, but your rival does get +2, it can swing the ladder position by 4. So this is a true kind of like 4-point swing for, two teams that are fighting, I think, to be in the back half of the top 8. And I hate to say it, but my Dolphins, who were top 4 earlier in the year, I think if they lose this game, it may not be on the outside looking in, but what you have to realize is the Finns are 6th, but with the same number of wins as 10th. So they're really only a little bit higher by virtue of when they've had their buys and points difference. The Finns have a challenging draw ahead as well. So needless to say, it's a massive game. We talk a bit about some underwhelming matches during the Origin weeks, but this one will be on for young and old, and I think we're going to rip it to kick off the round. The Finns are off a sizable loss and a bye, so pretty good spot coming home, wanting to improve, but with a couple of Origin outs, Kaufusi and the Hammer, plus Marshall King being a massive loss at 9, it's going to be tough. And then we know that South Sydney loses Murray, but I mean, they did win without Murray and Latrell when they both played game 2, and the Latrell injury shouldn't really affect this game. He would have been out either way. If Latrell was out for the season, I could see Rabbitohs being deflated, but they kind of got the good news that this Frank injury doesn't need surgery. So I almost feel like the team can band together and still see the month without Latrell as games that are winnable. Jai is no Latrell, but he's still a pocket rocket there. Again, KO Stadium is a good home advantage for the Finns, though they did lose last time. I think the last time out was the Raiders' extra time loss. It's just, to me, Katoa's killing it, but Walker is the best half in this game. Whiten looks as good in the last month of footy as he has in the last 2 years. Cook is playing pretty well on the back of the ascendancy of the Rabbitohs forward pack, which is led by Keon there. And I've got a Southside I think is superior. I said before, that's probably cancelled out by the bye and home field, but it shouldn't swing the pendulum so far to make the Finns a 4.5-point favourite, not to me. So I've taken that as a best bet.
I like it, mate. I've got a tip on this game, not a best bet or a Clarkey's Collect. I do have a tip, but I'm not sure how to play it or how to get that price. So I'll reveal that now, if you don't mind, if you could find that out for me. I'm thinking either side 1 to 12, if there's any value in that. But I couldn't find what's the best way to play that. But when I started to break down, right away, or?
I tell you, it's going to be about $1.70, $1.65, $1.70.
Okay.
Either team 1 to 12. Maybe $1.75.
Yeah, okay.
Someone in the comments can tell us. Wouldn't be your best bet price, for example, but 1 to 10 maybe would be like $1.80 plus.
Yeah, okay. Well, how I arrived to that
definitely
conclusion,
see it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And that's how I got to this conclusion. I had a look and I started to break this down statistically, and then I thought, well, let's just go back to the Rabbitohs' last 5, because they're a completely different side to what we've seen earlier this year. And in the Rabbitohs' last 5, they are scoring an average of 31 points and conceding an average of 13. When you look at the Dolphins' last 5, they're averaging 24 points conceded and they're scoring 21. So there's 10 points less per game than the Rabbitohs, and they're also conceding 11 points more. So that's a 21-point gap in these two sides here. But you go to the Rabbitohs here, and I can certainly favour them from that lens. And I also think that if we're looking at a team that's going to be a bit more desperate, I believe it will be the Bunnies, who will want to impress their future coach. And whilst they do lose Cameron Murray and Latrell Mitchell here, they have shown they can at least play to a standard without them this year. Now, you'd think there that usually, based on my analysis, I put on the Bunnies, but I'm just not, because one thing the stats can't show us, that's in effort, intent, intensity, and this Dolphins side has fought tooth and nail in their last 4 or 5, and they come into this one off a bye. The only game they didn't fight tooth and nail in was really that Dragons loss. Apart from that, they were in full-on battles with the Warriors, the Sharks, and there was a range of other sides. I just can't remember them right now. They've won 3 of 5 at home, and it's also Kenny Bromwich's 250th NRL game. Now, he was a real key guy when they started their club, and I think he's someone they're going to want to stand up for and make it a great occasion for. So all things considered, I actually couldn't get over the line with either side. So that's why I did want to offer that 1 to 12 tip there. I think it'll be a close one. But if we can't quite get enough value there, Winnie, do you see any other way we could possibly play it in a similar fashion?
So, I think I was right in my estimate of that being about $1.70. I just saw $1.74 on TopSport, but Ryan said $1.85 on Bet365, and I checked that, and that's correct. $1.85 for either team 1 to 12. I think that's every bit as good as my best bet because you're getting 12.5 with Souths instead of 4.5. And it's hard to see Souths. What you're risking is a Souths 13+ victory, which is hard to see given the importance for the Finns. But I mean, I stand by my side because we do see games that, promise to be tight, occasionally blowing out, even if it is late. And South's got that late try against Para, but I wouldn't talk anyone out of that, either team 1 to 12 because of the importance for both sides as well.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this game. It's going to be a great one to kick off the round, I believe. Next game's at Friday, 8 p.m.
Sorry, and I'll interrupt you because I'm responding to a comment. Ryan says, where do you find that? It's under main. It's hidden away, but it's under main, and then there's an either team win by. As Sakala Mink is on it. Said exactly the same thing as me. Sorry to interrupt. Sharks.
There we go. Yeah. No worries at all. Hopefully some people consider that one there. Yeah, so we're at PointsBet Stadium. The Sharkies host the Tigers. The line was set at -7.5 against the Sharks. I had a look pre-show. I didn't see any move there for the Tigers. They're without Justin Olam again. So Solomon Fatape moves to the centres and Alex Lobb comes onto the wing. For the Sharkies, their new halves combo is Daniel Atkinson and Braden Trindle. That's because Nico Hines is out and Sione Katoa returns on the wing there. All right, mate, we cannot forget the last time these two sides played. The Sharks came in with a double-digit line to cover, and they failed miserably in a 32-6 point defeat. But you don't get the feeling the Tigers can replicate that. You got the Sharkies here getting revenge.
And I was on the Tigers that night at Leichhardt, but that's actually one of the reasons why I like the Sharks this week. Now, the news today that Nico, I heard ankle injury at training, but now I'm hearing it's more serious than a sprain. It's a fracture, and it could be 2 months, which is bordering on a season ending for Nico. So that's devastating news for Hines. I just don't know if it's going to devastate the Sharks because Nico wasn't in the best form, and they're lucky to have other options, to play there and have had to earlier this year when Nico had been in and out, and then Trindle was in and out as well. So I'm not overly concerned with Atkinson, making them a more direct team and giving a bigger role to someone like Braden Trindle. I also look at the Sharks getting Hamlin, Uele, Toby Rudolph on the bench, and Katoa. You're getting extra force from all three of those. In addition to the revenge spot, it's just a desperation spot for Cronulla. As bad as they've been, losing 4 of the last 5, they've still controlled their own destiny to finish top 4, which is all any team really wants to do going into the season. And at home here, I just think the Sharkies, as long as they start solid, and those horror starts can't continue every game. I know Cronulla's been starting so bad, but they're not going to be down double digits out of the gate every week. And if Cronulla stays disciplined with their completions and their penalties, or 6 against, the Tigers aren't going to get a lot of chances. And I just don't think the Tigers can take a game away from you. I think the Tigers are only dangerous if you underestimate them, which Cronulla won't. So I'll lay it. You said that line hasn't really moved. It's come down, I think, since the Nico news, right? And it is a flat, or it is a 6.5, 7.5 across the board, which is not a great deal of difference, but a team can sometimes add that 1 pointer when they're up 6, and that could be how we win because I am laying 6.5, which was on 365.
I look at this Sharky side, Winnie, and I think, look, there's 3 losses in the row. There's still 4. It's not quite panic stations. They're not in a Broncos predicament where they're outside of the 8 and looking in or anything like that. And I actually think, strangely enough, losing Nico Hines here might help them. I guess in 3 different ways. Number 1, it's something fresh in their spine. Number 2, what we learned with the Knights earlier this year, I believe you call it the injured star theory or something like that, where the rest of the team steps up. I think that could be at play here as well. And number 3, with the greatest respects to Nico Hines, he hasn't been at his, we know his best as a Dally M medal, right? He hasn't been at that since Magic Round against the Roosters. You know, it was only one game after that. They lost 42-0. He was taken off with an injury, and it's kind of been a little bit downhill since then. I also look at their last three, and they've lost by a field goal, a missed conversion, and a try. So whilst there are danger signs, I don't think this Sharks side needs to quite panic and throw everything out. It just comes down to their start. That's the common theme across those three games. They started their game really poor. And so I went ahead and looked at the Tigers. They've only led at halftime 3 times in their past 10 games. They won one of those games against the Raiders. They lost another, and they lost the third one, conceding 44 points to the Dragons in the second half after leading. So I get the feeling, even if this Sharks side does start a little bit slow here at home, and the Tigers were to be leading at halftime, it's still a greater than 66% chance they blow it and lose at halftime based on their last 10 games. I think the Sharkies win here at home. They've won their past 10 out of their 12 games against the Tigers. There's a revenge factor here. It's been a decade since the Tigers have gone 2-0 over them in the regular season. And for as good as the Tigers have been in terms of improvements, they still conceded 138 points in their last 3 away games. Now, I know what you're thinking, away games, it's different. 2 out of those 3 games were in New South Wales. One was Sydney, one was Wollongong, the other was Suncorp. So whilst they're not travelling too far, they're still struggling to be focused and locked in on defense when traveling any distance to an away ground. I've got the Sharkies winning here. In addition, Ronaldo Mulitalo has only scored 2 tries in his past 10 games, and I think that's too low for someone of his quality. A change in the spine, things freshened up a little bit. He has scored 33 tries in 31 games here, so that's greater than 1 try per game. Therefore, my prediction here is Sharks minus 5.5 into a Ronaldo Mulitalo anytime try.
Let's bring in the Undertaker's comments, who's having an outstanding season. He says, best of luck. Sharks aren't getting another dollar off me. The Sharks are exactly who we thought they were. But I would question, what did we think of the Sharks? Did we think they're going to finish top 4? Because they're still favoured to finish top 4. Or even if we think that the Sharks will slide, it depends how much you reckon the Nico injury impacts them longer term. But even if you believe Cronulla's going to slide, land somewhere from 5th to 8th, shouldn't they still be beating the bottom team on the ladder at home, by more than a converted try? I believe they will. Another great question from Siebes. Do you think Hines is only worth 2 points? I wonder if Siebes is saying, yesterday you could have laid 8.5 with Cronulla, and now it's 6.5 and Hines is out. But to me, if Hines was in, let me put it this way, I would still play Cronulla as a best bet minus 9.5. I think he's worth about 3 points. I think he is a better goal kicker, even though he's missed some important ones recently. He's a clear better goal kicker than, I guess it'll be Trindle, who's below average. And there's still a higher upside with Nico there. But, you take a line down from 9.5 to 6.5, it's still equally good value to me. And I think ongoing, Nico out is worth every bit of 3 to 4 points. But the first week out, I actually reckon that the squad is going to rally and they don't have to worry about Nico's confidence or is his first kick or a couple of kicks or plays going to be on point? Does he drop his head after an error? Everybody else can take on a bit of responsibility, because I think there was a bit of that, Sean Johnson effect where everything had to go through Nico and it was actually a bit predictable for defenses. In some ways, it makes Cronulla harder to handle, I think. So I'll take him again. Failed last week, didn't even win the game, but it goes back to that shocking start, which just surely is not sustainable for Cronulla to, miss the first 15 minutes of these games.
Absolutely have to address that this week of training. Tigers were $4.50 before the news happened on Bet365. They came in as low as $2.50, I think, in the head-to-head market. So,
like the Undertaker says, the line was 13.5 pre-Hines, so pre-Hines news, right? So, I mean, that's a major move. I reckon that's an overreaction. But to me, the 13.5 is probably factoring in. I don't know if that was before the Sharks lost to the Titans. That would be my question, Undertaker, because I feel like part of the line moving 7 points is just because punters have downgraded Cronulla. It's not all Nico related, but depending on when that was last available. Because Sieb says he saw it as 8.5 before the news. So it's a pretty big difference. Again, we can vary a little bit from shop to shop, which is why it pays to have multiple outs.
It does. And just a quick word on Daniel Atkinson there, who comes into the halves. Look, this is a guy who came in with Cameron McInnes as his halves partner in Melbourne and beat the Storm when the Sharks were second and he was first. So I think he can come in and do a job as well. So I'm not too shocked the line didn't move as significantly as we might have thought. I think a lot of people think that this actually might help the Sharkies with a bit of a freshen up. But don't forget, guys, Friday Night Footy also means an exclusive, better same-game multi crafted by Winnie himself. Better also provides further NRL talk and tips in the Fox Sports Lab, which you can check out on their YouTube channel each Wednesday. And always importantly, think, is this a bet you really want to place? For free and confidential advice, call the number or visit the website in the show description. Game 3 is at Saturday, 5:30 p.m. and the beautiful Seabus Super Stadium on the Gold Coast. The Titans host the Eels. This line was set at -6 against the Titans. It's now shifted to -6.5 since team list dropped. Titans welcome back Jaden Campbell. Tanner Boyd drops out. AJ Brimson is 18th man. Cleese Haas and Philip Sami both return. My friend that I host another podcast with, Winnie Blaze, we both think that Brimson will come in, and it's a little bit of games by Desi there. For the Eels, Dejan Arce moves to halfback, Mitchell Moses out. Lorenzo Mulatalo, the brother of Ronaldo, makes his debut on the wing, and that pushes Blaze Talangi into the centres. These sides met twice last year. They went 1-1, and both games were decided by a 1-point and 2-point margin, respectively. They meet for the first time this year, Winnie, and you are expecting the Titans to get the job done in this one.
I am. They both lose one rep to Origin, Mo from the Titans engine room. But then for Parramatta, of course, Moses, who's arguably is the whole Parramatta engine at this point. You said it there. Campbell back in and AJ a real chance as well. I don't want any part of Parramatta. The Undertaker said he jumped on early on the Titans at $1.81, just head to head. And I'm sure that was after watching what Parra dished up last week, which wasn't terrible against Souths, but it was clearly the display of a very disjointed footy team right now and a little bit directionless. And the news has broken that we know who's going to be in charge in Riles next year, but does that give him any boost this week? I mean, it's not as if it's Barrett being extended, right? So maybe there's a bit more clarity for the future, but you're probably clutching at straws if you think that, you know, that news is what would turn anything around for Parramatta. And for me, I've got a Titans team that I'll call them relatively fresh because I'll say 3 weeks ago, or was it 2 weeks ago, depending on, you know, whether you call the round that's just gone a week ago or not. But 2 or 3 rounds ago is a home game where the Titans score 60. You know, that's a walk in the park. Then the Titans get a bye. Then they play an away game, but it is only at Coffs, and get a strong win over the Sharks. Now you're back home. You've got a Parramatta side that's been kicked from pillar to post that, if anything, Parramatta's dangerous because they've got nothing to lose, but they're not desperate in defence, and it shows. And I just actually look player for player, and I'm like, Keanu Kinney's having a better season than Gutho. Khan Pereira's having a better season than any Para winger, you know, and Sebo's out as well. Dylan Brown's really struggled without Moses. Campbell's every bit as dangerous. You got Dave Fafita. It's an absolute statement game for him, and he can be the best forward on the field. And I have to just say, I am bewildered he's not in the Queensland team, and it has to be beyond footy. It has to be personal, because how could Fafita have not even been in the extended bench or even in the wider squad in any of the 3 games? To come into camp, to be an option, to, you know, to get acclimatized. Billy's completely left him out in the cold, and there's got to be some reasons that we don't know. And I guess we should trust Billy. He's got the runs on the board, but, you know, I'm voicing my doubt, and I think a lot of people are. Cleese Haas is a big inclusion as well for the Titans. Has had an outstanding kind of breakout season. And you look at Para, where their strengths would be in the forward pack. Reagan Campbell-Gillard's not the same player he was in his prime. Neither's often Gowie. Madison's had an underwhelming year. I really enjoyed last Thursday night betting against Bryce Cartwright. I don't have to hold my breath every time he carries the ball that he's going to somehow hurt his team. It's just a bonus when he does it and you're against him. So better team, more confident, at home. Brimo's a bonus if he comes in under a converted try. Yeah, I would have loved to get $1.80 like Undertaker if I could play early. And I'll talk about another game, you know, which we discussed in the recap. But nevertheless, I'll play it as it stands, -5.5.
100%. Look, as I pointed out last week, you go back to the Titans throughout our whole existence, and really we have struggled with pressure and backing up expectation. You know, we're the sort of team, as I pointed out in that preview, we can compete to the death against the Storm, but then lose to the Tigers somehow. But we have shown that we can back up expectation now, and I think there is a real belief with this group under Des Hasler that times are changing, whether slowly or not, at the Titans there. Look, we backed up a historic win against the Warriors, against the Sharkies there, and we get an Eels side that without Mitchell Moses, this is something the Titans should certainly be up for at home. There is a lot of energy at home games for the Titans. It's a really great atmosphere led by the front line there. So it's super exciting, and it does get our players up. They do mention to us after that they can hear us, and it definitely motivates them. Trent Barrett, now his motivation as a head coach diminishes, as he now knows he's going to be replaced next year, and he's not even guaranteed to remain as an assistant coach. You got Eels players in the media begging to keep him, essentially. So I don't think his motivation is there. Why I hesitated on this one, Winnie, is you've got someone like Dave Fafita, as you said. He's just Origin standard or Origin worthy. As Billy said, he's had a slow preseason, and although it's round 19 now, that slow start was completely unacceptable, and he's nowhere near the player that Kurt Capewell, Brennan Piakura, who missed 9 tackles, or Trent Liero is at the moment. He's just not. Of course, I'm joking. Dave Fafita is going to make a big mark on this game. I can tell you right now. He will remind everyone exactly who he is. He didn't have his strongest game against the Sharks, but Dave rarely puts 2 bad games together in a row. I went and had a look at the Eels on their left edge to see how many tries they are conceding. In their past 5 games, they've conceded 10 tries on the left edge to back rowers through to wingers. Now, on that edge is Alofiana Khan-Pereira, who leads this competition in tries, and Dave Fafita, who is up there with the most tackle breaks per game of any player, not just forwards. So I've got to go Titans. Absolutely, I do. The Eels can really leak points on the left side, and the Titans have a very dangerous left edge with Kieran Four in there. Stats don't back me here. We actually beat the Eels at Seabus in 7 years, and they've only lost to us once in their past 9 games. That was at Magic Round last year, so a neutral venue. But Winnie, I'm going to do it. I believe in my side. I'm not only going to throw a tip out here, guys. It is time for Clarkey's Collect. It's time to cash a checkie with my specky of the week. Titans minus 5.5 into David Fafita anytime try. That pays $3.50 on toppy. If you've got your top up for the day, you can get it at $3.70. Titans into Dave Fafita. Do something about it, Eels. They can't. We are going to go 4 in a row, 4 weeks in a row on Clarkey's Collect, dating all the way back to Origin 2. And there's not a damn thing the Eels can do about it, TryPod fam. Titans checks with a premiership flex. I absolutely love it, Winnie. What do you think?
Makes too much sense, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Let's move on to game 4. Saturday, 7:35 p.m. We're at Suncorp Stadium where the Broncos host the Dragons. That line is set at minus 6.5 against the Broncos, and it hasn't moved. For the Broncos, no Origin players, but they do welcome Jordan Ricky back. Rogers is their new halfback, and Blake Moser is into their side. For the Dragons, Jesse Marshke moves to halfback again. Michaeli Ravalawa returns on the wing, and Raymond Faitala Mariner is back. Now, the Broncos come into this one winning, having only won 7 of their 16 games this season, less than 50%. It's almost backs to the wall type of stuff. You know, must win at home against a side in a similar place on the ladder. You believe they can live up to that line and keep their season alive here, mate?
I do. I'm just looking out of interest because Toppy actually had the best odds available on Brisbane, and they have shifted 5 cents. And I dare say a lot of our followers bet with Toppy, especially where it was the location of the best bet. So minus 5.5 in the alt is now 4 cents lower at $1.76, or you could play a flat 6. A minus 6 would be $1.82. In any case, it is such a big game for Brisbane, which it also was last week, which is why I took the Broncos against Penrith. And again, that line was 4.5, but I took the first half line. And in fact, Brisbane actually held a lead. Just to me, Kevy, you know, he can implore the team, big crowd, you know, it's the bully, the Panthers, the side they wanted revenge on. But Kevy couldn't exactly tell the team, you have to win. We have to win this game. Because when you play Penrith, you don't actually control whether you win. You know, you're playing a stacked Penrith side, and all you can really hope is that you give yourself a chance. But I feel like this time around, the messaging to the players will be, you have to go out on that field, Suncorp Stadium, where I think Brisbane's now lost 3 in a row, what should be a fortress. And I think they have to say that like no result is acceptable other than a win. And while Brisbane, the origin selections went St George's way, let's be fair. A couple of wingers are injured for Queensland, so Cobbo is back in the Maroon side, so that makes it 4 Queenslanders, or sorry, not 4 Queenslanders, but 4 origin players out for Brisbane because Payne Haas is among that. And then Jaden Sewer, who was starting for Queensland, is now left out altogether. So that's both positive for St George, who also get back Hame Sele, Ravalawa, potentially Jack Bird. You know, I'm looking at Marshke playing 7. I'm not sure. You could slide Flanagan to 7. You could play Jack Bird at 6 potentially, and Bird is in the reserves. Okay. But I look at Brisbane, and Rogers did well on debut earlier this season. I still believe in that Suncorp crowd and the fact that the importance is so high for Brisbane. And the inclusions of Katoni Staggs and Jordan Ricky are nearly the same as getting origin players back with how much they mean to their team. And I really think they'll both be highly impactful. And I still see other match winners out there like Ezra Mam, Sailor, one of the best backup fullbacks in the comp as well. And they've dealt with, they haven't dealt very well, but they have had Walsh, missing games. The fact that you rested some of these origin stars in other games, like the New Zealand one, has actually given other players more experience, which you're going to be drawing on again in this one. The Dragons have a chance for sure. They can pave the way to victory with their forwards, I would say, but I just think that Brisbane's got enough to handle the St George pack and a better back 5 that could be the difference in this.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the stat that I went to last time, Winnie, and it got my tip wrong at that stage, but I've got to reference it again. The Dragons, when playing without Ben Hunt, have won 1 game in their past 11. And that 1 game actually was the last game. It was this year. It was against the Penrith Panthers in pretty torrential rain conditions. And when we look at this Panthers side, we now know what kind of their kryptonite is. Even the Tigers have beaten them in the wet at Bathurst. They've lost their last 4 out of 5 game rain or something like that. And I just think that was an outlier. I really do. Like, if anyone disagrees, please let me know. If those two met together right now head-to-head with those same lineups, who would be tipping this round? I think majority of us would be going with Penrith. So it was super – I'm not taking away from that win. That win was super impressive. But I just can't think – I don't think they could sustain that for even a second time, and I can't tip them to repeat that. Suncorp is also a pretty tough place to travel, and I don't think the Dragons will be up for another upset here. I'm going to go against a few stats, though, because the Broncos are 1 win from their last 5 at Suncorp, and the Dragons have actually won 6 of their last 8 games against them. The Broncos' attack is also struggling big time. Since round 14, so we're going back 5 rounds now, they're averaging less than 12 points per game, only 2 tries, and that stat has to improve here. And you could say that gets harder because they have not only a new halves combo, a whole new spine. I think their spine is Tyson Smoothie, Josh Rogers, Ezra, and Tristan Sailor. They would not have played with that spine, but it could be what we always say.
Smoothie's 13. Billy Walters is still there at 9.
Okay, so yeah.
But of course, Rogers is only playing his second game. It's a mix and match. But I do feel like they've all. It's not brand new. It's not.
Yeah.
Of course, the Dragons are without their rudder in Ben Hunt.
It's true. That's that. Just 1 from 11 without him there. So this Broncos side maybe not completely fresh together, as you touched on there, but certainly they wouldn't have played too much footy together, particularly in the positions that they're in here. But I'm going to put all that aside, and I'm going to go the Broncos just based on the absolute desire they must have in front of their home fans. I'm sure the coaching staff have sat down, they've looked at the roster, and they've circled this game and gone, this is a must-win at home against a side that will also be missing some big-name players like Ben Hunt. I think they can do it. Must win. They can capitalize on the Dragons being there without Ben Hunt. So my tip will be Broncos to win this one, and I'll go along with your best bet also.
8-day turnaround versus 6-day as well. This time of year, that extra little bit of time to recover and prep and being at home, so that, the travel for the away side too. The Dragons got destroyed, didn't they, last time they played on Sunday by 30 points to the Roosters. So you don't really want to go against a team like that, but Brisbane's – I'm not trying to dismiss that the game's not important for St George, because these are two teams both fighting to make the final, so it's another 4-point swing. on the ladder, as the next game and final game will preview is. It's just when both teams are really desperate, I'm gonna suggest that class prevails.
I like it, mate. I like it a lot. Alrighty, let's jump into the final game of the round. It's at 4:05 on a Sunday afternoon. We're at 4 Pines Park. Sea Eagles host the Knights. That line was set at -8.5 against Manly. It's come slightly into -7.5. For the Eagles, Tom Trbojevic returns to fullback. Lehigh Hopewadi goes to the wing. Tommy Talau is now the centre, and Jamie Humphreys is the new halfback. For the Knights, Sharp returns as the fullback. Mama Papalangi is their wing. Thomas Cant and Dylan Lucas are their new centres. And both of these sides come into this game with an identical record. Last year, Winnie, they went for a 90-minute draw. So they have been pretty closely matched over these last little period here. With not too much separating them this year and both sides missing key players, do you find this a difficult game to get a key read on?
Not so much difficult to get a read, but just the fact that I think the bookies have got a fair read on it. This was the game we brought up. Nicole brought this up as a final point on the recap, that it could be a great bet on Manly, and they were pick 'em or -1.5 at the time. And every selection or rumoured selection was shaping in the Sea Eagles' favour. So that is Honga being picked for Queensland, Turbo not being picked for Manly, Ola Kawatu being dropped, Gagai getting recalled to the Maroons, and Best for the Blues as well. And what a time for Manly. They get that 1 point away win to the Cowboys, and you catch Newcastle with 3 outside backs pulled out of the team. And again, it's 7th Manly at home against the 9th place Knights. So it is another 4-point game essentially on the ladder. Turbo to 1, I could have sworn Seabold said he'd stay at centre for the next month, but with Kohler out, maybe Turbo does play fullback. But I would suggest, because I saw it in the Discord, everyone was like, oh, Hopewadi's on the wing, smash that price. But I would suggest Hopewadi will play fullback, Turbo will play centre, and Talau will shift to the wing. That would be my prediction. You talked about the Knights backline. All right, KP's been out most of the year, so covering him, Sharp's been very commendable. Best has missed games too, but I'm looking at those centres in Lucas and Cant, and I can't say it's going to be very threatening. That is definitely a weakness. Then you look at Manly, and of course, no DCE, but it really should be Brooks's time to shine at Brooksvale. Both sides believe they should make finals. Both are off confidence-boosting, tight away wins. Then it comes down to the forward battle, and this is why I won't play Manly, and I don't think it's as cut and dry as others might suggest, because the Knights' strength is their pack, and the Knights pretty much full strength in the forward pack. Manly have no Gerbo. Paseka is still out. Of course, Hamole is an awesome in. But I think that the forward battle decides how many opportunities there'll be for Manly. And if Manly gets a fair share of the footy, it's a more potent backline. Turbo being the wild card, because he was very mediocre last year. And that might sound harsh, but for the stand that we expect from Turbo, he did very little and appeared gassed in the game. However, of course, Tom should be a fair bit better, could be up a gear or two, with the run under his belt. So if Turbo's in one of those moods and in, 2021 form, then Manly will cover this line. But Turbo might still be building up to that player that we, hope that he can be again. Even in saying that, there's still more weapons in the Manly back line, which probably leads them to a win. But, I think the with home advantage, the line's correct at around 8 points. If it was 5.5, I'd be laying it with Manly. If it was 10.5, I'd be saying, give me the Knights. So the fact it's in between is why that's the one game I have no best bet on this week.
This is a tough one for me to get a read on. Look, Knights without Kalen Ponga, as you said, I'm comfortable with it because we've seen them with Armstrong and Sharp there for a while now. They've experienced that for a large portion of this year. But then you take out both their centres, and Anari Chuala is injured on that wing as well. We get Christian Maipalangi on a wing. I think he's more of a centre 5/8, if I'm correct. Their centres have 4 NRL games experience between them. Thomas Cant has not played centre in New South Wales Cup once this year. They've all been at back row. And it's a complete rejig. I don't know what to expect there. Then we go to Manly, and you take the heart and soul out of that team in Daly Cherry Evans and Jake Trbojevic, and they're equally as affected, you could argue, with the experience they both bring. What the Knights should worry about, in my opinion, is if Tom Trbojevic does remain at centre, with the Knights' backline so adjusted and this centre and wing pairings on either side not really having defended together, their talk and defense and decision-making under split second could be wrong, just because they don't have that experience and that trust in each other week to week that's built up throughout an NRL season. And I think if Tom does play centre, but he gets that kind of run license a little bit that he has in Origin, that's when he could be extremely threatening. And it's just a tough task. Like, if I told you you have to mark up on an Origin level centre in Tom Trbojevic, who's won a Dally M, and you play back row in New South Wales Cup, you're probably not feeling too confident. That's fine. No, you shouldn't be. I just don't know what to expect in this. We've got rejigged lineups, but when I go to the stats, the Seagulls have only lost 2 of their last 11 games to the Knights at home. And this year they have 5 from 6 at home, which includes wins over some big sides like the Storm and the Panthers. So it's clearly a ground they get up for. And for that reason, I will tip Manly head-to-head, but not with as much confidence as I would like, Winnie.
And that's it, 5 games. I'll give you a recap. I didn't have a best bet on that one, but I had one on each of the other 4. So let me know what you think. Rabbitohs plus $4.5, $84. Sportsbet. Sharks minus $6.5, $91, 365. Titans minus $5.5, $82. Dabble and 365. Broncos minus 5.5. Alt line. Toppy. And we'll be back on Sunday to recap. But then next show we'll do will be the Origin 3 preview. Nicole's going to join us. That's on Monday night. So then our round 20 preview won't be until 9 days from now on Thursday. Give us a recap of Clarkey's Collect, mate, because you've been scorching hot.
Scorching hot, and as we know, Jaden Campbell does not miss goal kicks. He went 11 from 11 against the Warriors. That's our first jab there. Bang, Titans minus 5.5, followed up with a big, dirty overhand. That is David Fafita crossing for a try at any time, taking out his revenge on Billy Slater on the Port Eels, who have conceded 10 tries down their left edge in their past 5 games. That pays $3.50 on Top Sport, and you can boost it to $3.70 as well. Those are our best bets for round 19. Thank you very much for being with us here on this preview show, and we will see you Monday within 15 minutes of full time. Then we will see you the next Monday at 5:30 p.m. for our Origin preview and best bet show. And of course, that will have a recap of Origin and everything NRL round 20 for you as well. So from myself, thank you very much. And over to you, Winnie, to farewell the show.
Thanks to everyone who tuned in live or else watched or gave us a listen later. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the abbreviated footy round, and we'll catch you back Sunday night to talk about it all. Let me know what your favourite plays are of mine or of your own.